Let me tell you a story about Osage Orange and how it bleeds. So this is a piece of unfinished Osage Orange. It's got a bit of a orangey brown cast to it in its rough state. Here's a piece after it's been planed up, and here you can just see it's got this sort of yellowy orange, yellowy green sort of tone to it. And I picked these up kind of as a novelty. So I was at the lumber mill about an hour out of town. Now I live in southern Ontario in Canada, and I've heard of Osage Orange, but I've heard it's more of a southern US tree. I didn't even know that it actually had a bit of range up here into Ontario, and the guy was showing me, he's like, oh yeah, I got a couple of these little boards and they will mill up interesting, and so I bought one just on a whim to try it out, and it is kind of cool. I've talked about it before. It makes a great accent wood. Here, this is a trivet. I forget, 2 years ago I think I made this one. I've since looked it up online, and it's supposed to fade to a bit of a brown, but this has been in use in our kitchen for at least a year, maybe 2 years, and it hasn't faded. Here's another one. This one is about less than a year old. So I thought it makes an interesting contrast wood. I've put it in cutting boards. Here you can just see a strip of it here and a strip of it there. It's a good hardwood, and I just thought it was an interesting color, and I like to put different colors together, especially in projects like those trivets or cutting boards. And yeah, it's an interesting wood. So on with the story. And so now it's been a couple of years that I've had Osage Orange, and I've used it as an accent wood, and it's kind of neat. So fast forward to, let's say last November, I think it was, and I saw this video from the DIY Montreal channel. She did a couple of wooden spoons and spatulas, and I thought that was neat, and I wanted to make a couple for my wife. So I got her patterns, and this was just sort of a quick afternoon project. Ripped some maple and traced it out, and I'm like, well, hang on. Let me pull up some Osage Orange also, and so we'll get sort of a different color. And I just whipped a bunch of these out. You know, you just cut out the patterns, and you're mostly just doing work on the power sander. And it went great. And then now being a wooden spoon, I wasn't going to put any finish on it at all. But I took it upstairs and I just rinsed them quickly in the sink, and I set them aside in the drying rack. And then I came back, you know, an hour later, and I'm like, what is this weird little color that I'm seeing? It was in the sink. It's like it had come from the drying rack, and what is it? And I'm looking around, and I realize that it was the Osage Orange. Here, these, let me bring the camera in even closer. And I ran the water from the sink over it. I pulled out the board, and I'm like, these boards are bleeding. And you know, this is not just the light. Here, let me take it out. It is, it is yellow. It is yellow. And that's how I discovered that Osage Orange bleeds. I've since done some reading online, and Osage Orange is actually, it's used as a dye. It was a natural dye. I found, you know, a video of somebody who's just raving about it because she was using it to dye wool and canvas and leather, and she gets this beautiful color out of it. And I don't think it's poisonous. I looked it up on a wood toxicity website, and they're like, well, they have had reports that Osage Orange can maybe irritate the skin, but that's all I could find. So, and I've seen various places where they say, oh, it's great in a cutting board. And so yeah, I think it is good in a cutting board, but I don't think I would use it in a utensil. I'm just sort of imagining, you know, if we're like stirring some mashed potatoes or something, and you reach for the spatula and you start getting a yellow cast to your wood, to your food. I don't know how long it will last. I just decided that, you know what, I think these are just going to go on the shelf and I will just stick with maple for the wooden spoons. And just as a little example, this was a brand new white piece of paper just 5 minutes ago before I put this wet spatula down, and I left it there while I was talking to the camera for a minute or two, and now I picked it up and it's yellow. So yeah, that's it. It was just a quick story. Great contrast wood in a trivet or in a cutting board, but maybe I don't want to use it as a spatula or a wooden spoon. We'll see you next time.